Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN's The Hub. I'm your host, Joe Booze Rum. I'm here with Vlad to the Bone, Fantasy Pros expert Andrew Seifter, and as always, Ross the Boss.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk fantasy sports with you, cowboy. We got an unbelievable show today. We got our special interview with Matt Prater. He's the kicker for the Detroit Lions. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about Andrew's special little thing he does with kickers every week. It's going to be great. And during Monster Madness, we have a special guest judge, and this guy knows how to judge. He has a lot of experience. It's Howie Mandel, which I'm excited about also. So we have a great show today. Make sure you watch the whole thing. I'm Ross the Boss. Dan, take us away to First and 10.
That's right. It is time for us to talk about redraft leagues. At this time of the year, what should you be doing with your roster? So here we go with First and 10. Okay, guys. So we are at week 7. Do I have that correct? I believe so.
Yeah. Week 7, yes.
At this point in the year, you know, we're starting to separate the men from the boys. We're starting to or the women from the girls. We are going to find out what should we do about, you know, if you are, let's say you're undefeated, how do you set up your team for a deep playoff run? If you are at the fringes, how do you get up to the next level? So, Andrew, let's start with you. How do you kind of secure your team to get them to that next level? Because this is when you're starting to get ready for the playoffs if you think you're going to make it.
Right. Yeah, no, it's really important to look at the season as different segments of the season. I would say right now we're about to hit peak bye week season. So for about the next month, you're going to have to focus more on accruing value on your bench and getting through those bye weeks, making sure you have the depth you need to get those, speaking of buys, to get those playoff buys so you don't have to play in the first round of the playoffs. In many leagues, they have that going. So that's where my focus would be until week 11, which is when the last big group of bye weeks are over, and then it's about solidifying your team for the playoffs. So that what I like to do is I like to have 3 great running backs and 3 great receivers. If it's a league where you only play 1 flex, 2 running back, 2 receiver, because that way, if any one player gets injured, you're still gonna have great players at every spot. And you know, I talked on the waiver wire show how I don't really believe in rostering 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends most of the time, but I do think you might consider that late in the season when you need that depth just in case an injury strikes. But really it's about, you know, trying to build up that value on your bench and make 2-for-1 deals if you can to, you know, really build up the strongest possible starting lineup for the fantasy playoffs.
Let's just clear that picture up also. The 2-for-1 deal, I mean, it's obviously what it sounds like. It's 2-for-1, but the idea is you get that best player. I think mostly we are looking to trade for the best player because you also get that roster spot and you get a chance to pick up somebody. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's just really important to try to upgrade. You know, if you have 5 great running backs, you're not going to be able to play 5 running backs in week 14, week 15, week 16. You're only going to play at most 3. You know, so if you can turn 2 of those guys into one that's better, that's going to make your team much more dangerous when it comes to winning that fantasy championship.
And you're always going to run into a roster crunch of some kind. So I like to get ahead of that curve and condense into one great player and keep building the roster. Ross, how about you? How do you approach this? At this point in the season, what are you thinking about?
So at this point in the season, you know, if you're in the playoff hunt, great. For, you know, as I mentioned, you can't like worry about bye weeks that much. I want to talk about bye weeks a little bit just because I feel people focus too much on that. And I feel they may drop somebody because they feel they got to get this guy for their bye week. It's 1 week, folks. Don't worry about it. If you don't have like a great running back or great quarterback or somebody starting for 1 week, it's not going to kill your team. If you get an average player, you know, you can't worry about bye weeks. You worry about bye weeks the week of the bye week, and you adjust your roster accordingly. I just feel people worry about bye weeks coming up, and they kind of ruin their teams and they wave people away.
My point was simply that it's you know, having depth on your team right now is valuable. It's you know,
in a lot
of leagues it's a bloodbath to even get into the playoffs.
If you can trade 2 good players, like Dan said, for 1 great one, for you know, if you can get 2 like 2 wide receivers that are good for 1 great running back or receiver, it's totally a great deal for you. because the only thing you're going to miss is let's say one bye week. So that's the thing I would go for. Is I would look for more of people that I feel that will bring it on in November. That, like, let's say Tannehill, who's peaking right now, and you know that. I don't think he can keep it up. I'm just giving an example. Don't go crazy on me, Andrew.
I can't
such a
believe
hater,
it.
man.
Ross is bringing up
Tannehill
on this
show.
When will you learn, Ross?
That being said, if I had Tannehill, I would trade him right now, because I don't think he can sustain this for the rest of the season. That's my opinion.
Oh, Lauren Auerbach.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, she just comes in. Come on in.
Ross, thank you. I will. But Ross, when you say that you aren't kind of concerned about your bye weeks, I mean, say you have to, fill, a position on your roster. Are you going to take the goose egg, or like, are you willing to drop?
No. I'll fill it.
Like a handcuffed running back.
Yeah, I mean, I'll fill it, but I'm not going to trade for one player for 1 week. I'm not going to drop, let's say, a player that's on my bench, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to alter your plan just for the bye weeks.
Just so I can have that player start that 1 week.
Yeah, but Ross, you're the one who said you want to
back.
hold on to a kicker over their bye week, right? I don't think you should do something like that.
I do hold on to certain kickers. Tucker, Lutz, there's certain kickers I do hold on to. We'll
Matt
talk about
Prater.
that later.
Matt Prater.
Well, how many?
We'll talk about that later. Let's not talk about kickers quite yet. We have a kicker on tonight.
No. That's
I've
later.
tried this
That's
in
later.
the past. And I wonder if anybody else has done this as well. Have you ever tried to have like multiple players all having the same bye week, so you just kind of punt a week? Have you ever tried that?
I haven't tried that, but I've backed into it accidentally. But you know what? Actually, that's not true. I probably have tried that, because Andrew calls me what's your nickname for me? The mad professor or something like that. You're always talking about the mad scientist.
The mad scientist.
No, you call me the
nutty professor.
You call me the mad scientist, because you call me the nutty professor or the mad scientist, because I'm always playing around with things like that. So Kasey, I would be totally for that. But I think Ross makes, to me, the key point. You don't want to overreact to the bye weeks. Let's say you overreact to the bye weeks and you get that player and he scores like 3 points. You just changed your whole team and you don't know what's going to happen. But Lauren, how about you? You asked Ross the question, but I want to hear how you do it.
Yeah, well, I do try and I think about bye weeks. I don't completely just kind of throw them out the window. I mean, one thing I do like to do is, if I do have room, during bye weeks, that's a great time when people drop players, and that's the time that you can kind of scoop them up.
Like Tua.
Just because, exactly, just like Tua. And
Justin Jackson.
People, you have those roster crunches, and people just are like, well, I can't handle this. I want to put in a player who's going to score points. And that's often the times I'll look for, when you see other league mates dropping players that normally wouldn't be available, and I'll just try and scoop them up. So I like to do that during the bye weeks.
Yeah, I also like, once you do that, if you've got a player who's already played on bye, this is a kind of sneaky thing to do. You can make a trade for a guy who's already been on his bye. And you just skip the bye entirely. Like Ross said,
I think it's valuable to
base your whole system
once
around
guys
that.
have gone through the bye. I mean, that's even great when you're considering picking up players off the waiver wire. If they've gone through the bye, boom, it's like golden. You can have them for the rest of the season.
But we do have to be honest with we have to be upfront with people here about the fact that your bench size really matters, because in a lot of leagues with short benches, you have to make tough choices. And I'm never going to
size matters.
I'm never going to start. I'm never going to have an inactive player in my starting lineup in any circumstance. So there are times where you have to make those tough drops. So what I like to do in those situations is sort of use the waiver wire as like an extension of my bench. So if there's a guy on my team who I feel like is replaceable with 2 or 3 different guys on the waiver wire, that's the guy I'm going to cut, because even if I can't get back the specific guy I dropped, I feel like I'll be able to replace his value with another player.
With somebody.
So you want on your bench, the guys you really want to make sure you hold on to through those bye weeks are the guys who bring you something unique, a unique skill set that you can't find elsewhere.
Kasey, let's you and I talk about trades, because
that's what I wanted
I
to
guess
bring up,
Lauren,
'cause-
you like to trade about as much as we do.
Yeah,
No,
Lauren's
probably
in
not
this-
quite as much, but
Not as much. You guys
Lauren's
are
in this as
pretty
well, but one
high
of my
traders.
frustrations, particularly with redraft leagues, and I know I've talked about this with several of you in the past with other leagues we've been in, is how do you motivate somebody who's 1-5 or 2-4 at this point to trade with you if there's no chance of them making the playoffs? I feel like in a redraft league where somebody's just kind of saying, well, I'm kind of done, I'm kind of given up, why would I give you the best player I have for 2 lesser players, or one of my only strong performers for 2 other players? I feel like in redraft leagues, it's really tough at this point of the season to pull off a trade with somebody who's underperforming or not performing well. Clearly, if you're and those who you're competing with, I'm always leery if somebody's offering me a trade that they're trying to take one of my highest scoring players. So I'm curious how those of you who enjoy the redraft league more than I do, and I think more than Dan does, how do you guys look at trades at this point in the season?
Well, let me answer this. So beginning of the season, I said, when you go to these draft parties, you make friends with some people that you never met before. You have a little relationship. You flirt with them. You know what I mean, in a good way. And
it's a man flirt.
A man flirt. You text them or you email them. Everybody has everybody's email in the league, and you become their friend. And then when it's time to trade, hey buddy, I'd love to get so-and-so from you. What do you want from them? And that person is probably, let's say that person's 1-5, like you said. And that relationship that you made at the draft party, this comes in handy. This is the reason you do that. That's the reason you listen to Ross the Boss, is because you make those relationships. It's not because you're really their friend. You're really going to steal their best player from them.
And then you're going to go on TV and tell them you're doing it.
That's
so
right.
You have to be smart, and you have to use your senses. And you got to listen to us because we know what we're doing. So when you go and draft, that's what you got. That's the first step of the Ross and Boss lesson, is you make friends with people in your league.
You also want to actually maintain those relationships. We talked about this a while back with trades, that you don't want to burn those relationships. You don't actually want to necessarily take their best player. But if you're in that situation and you've got a relationship where it's free-flowing conversation, you are more likely to make a deal with those. So I totally agree with you, Ross. In fact, the question we're talking about today, I call this a Dan-Andrew trade. It's where Andrew is looking to get better, and he's trying to sell me on, you can still get in if you make this. And he sells me 3 guys. I give him my best guy. And, sometimes I don't do it, Andrew, just because I can't hand it over to you. But sometimes, Andrew's very convincing, and he'll make a very strong argument, and he's not even wrong. That's the worst part. He's got a good take on it. So if you want to
those trades can help both teams, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to get a lower tier team, you want to say, hey, this is your last chance. This is your Hail Mary. I think that's what you go for.
Yeah, but the thing, and really just 6 weeks into the season right now, I mean, most teams are not out of it right now. I mean, even if you're 2-4, you got a shot to make the playoffs, So I'd say at least 80% of the teams in your league are still looking to make moves. And honestly, it is those teams that are maybe 2-4 that are thinking, I need to make some changes here because things are not working the way they are right now. I got one team that's like that myself. And so, I think those people are more interested in actually making a trade. So you don't want to wait too long where a team is actually mathematically eliminated, because then they've got no motivation
whatsoever. Then they have no reason.
But right now, there's still plenty of motivation, I think.
There's motivation, so right now, and there's boredom too. You're tired of looking at the same players every week. You want to change. It's human nature. You want to change for better or worse. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Ross, speaking of that, Andrew likes to change his kickers. We know that. But we finally get the chance to interview Matt Prater, a true NFL kicker who maybe all of us had cut at some point because we've been playing this for a long time, and so has Matt Prater.
We've all picked him up.
But Andrew cuts him and other kickers regularly. We're going to find out up next what Matt Prater thinks about Andrew's theory.
Hi, I'm Ross the Boss. We have a great interview today. We have 2-time Pro Bowler, 14-year NFL veteran. He also has the record for the longest field goal in NFL history. It's 64 yards. I think Ross the Boss can kick at least 65. That's me. Let's welcome Matt Prater. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, before I ask, now, is it true that if you kick a 65-yard field goal this year, you're buying the whole city of Detroit a beer? What's the truth behind that?
Pretty much. Just kind of a little back and forth between Brandon McManus, who kicks in Denver, kind of just giving kind of joking back and forth, and he tagged Bud Light in it, and now we're competing for the longest field goal for free beer for an entire city, whether it's Denver or Detroit.
Do you think your coach will let you kick a 65-year? I mean, it's not really your call to do it. It's your coach.
Right.
I mean, will he bring you out there to do it? I mean, does he know you want to break the record again?
Yeah, I think every kicker in the NFL wants to break the record or at least get a chance to. It just, with the NFL, games are always so close. It just has to be the perfect scenario to get an opportunity to kick one so far, just because of the field position if you don't make it.
How would you compare kicking? I know you kick for Denver, and I know you kick in Detroit now. Compare the two cities. I know people say the ball carries in Denver, which I know because of baseball. I know baseball players love playing there. What's the dip? Do you see a big difference when you're kicking in both places?
A little bit. Anytime, obviously in Detroit, we're playing a dome. So anytime you can play indoors, it makes things easier. Denver was nice early on in the season because the ball definitely travels a bit further, but sometimes you deal with weather out there. I think this weekend they're expecting snow and 15 degrees. So that would be the only negative side about kicking in Denver. Everything else is awesome.
And where do you like to, what's the worst place to kick? I mean, if you had I know Green Bay's just a horrible, just sitting on the sidelines almost the whole game and just waiting to go in there to kick the ball. I'm sure that's horrible. But
yeah,
for you, like, what's the worst place for you to kick a ball at? Like, you just dread going there.
There's actually a few places. I'm not a huge fan of playing in New England late because the way their stadium was built, there's an open corner, so the wind kind of comes in and swirls. So no matter where you are on the field, it feels like you're kicking into a strong wind. So mentally, that's tough. But Cleveland can be tough late in the year for sure. Chicago is always really cold and really, really windy. Green Bay is obviously cold late in the year. We were lucky and already played them this season. But yeah, any of those northern teams that play outdoors can be really tough late in the season.
I was gonna say I heard the Steelers, at least at one end, is hard.
Yeah, I think they have. I've only played there once, and it was in preseason, so I don't remember the stadium that well. But I think they did have one open corner.
That's funny. You've been around so long. I thought you would have played there, but that's
no. I feel like in Denver they always came to us when I was in Denver. So
I wanted to ask a question. It's also about the 64-yarder. I don't want you to feel pigeonholed by that. Of course, we're very excited to have you for multiple reasons. But when I was a kid growing up, I was fascinated by Tom Dempsey, who was the guy who had the 63-yarder, and he had a half a foot, which I don't understand how that happened. I couldn't kick like a 25-yarder with a whole foot. But when you came out to kick that, did you have any sense of that moment, or you were just like in the zone? What was it like?
Honestly, I didn't know it was for the record until we went out and got the spot. Am I allowed to cuss on this show or no?
Yes, you can say anything you want.
Okay. All right. So I'll kind of go word for word. So I remember Peyton completed a pass to Tammy. He got out of bounds really quick. And I knew it was going to be just over a 60-yard kick. I couldn't tell where he went out of bounds because it was on the opposite sideline. So we're going out there, and the holder gets down to get the spot. And it was Britton Colquitt, who's a pretty religious guy, doesn't cuss. And I think he goes, "Holy shit, this is for the record." So as I'm taking my steps back, I take my 3 steps back, and I'm saying to him, "Why the hell would you tell me that right now?" As I'm taking my steps.
Seriously, you don't want to know
that was our conversation right before the kick.
And are you a superstitious guy? Are there any? I know a lot of kickers are. They talk about it. Do you do any superstitious stuff before a game or before a kick? Is there anything that?
For some reason, I picked up the last several years. I feel like now is the smelling salts before a field goal.
One of those guys, yeah.
Yeah, I think I started doing it when I was younger on a game winner. Like a trainer would just give it to me, so I was like, "Man, what the hell?"
And you just break it.
It just what does it do for you?
I don't know. I feel like it kind of just not wakes you up a little bit, but it kind of sharpens your focus a little bit.
I can see it. No, I can see it. It just brings you into the moment so that you can just be there.
Yeah.
How do you deal with when I think about being an NFL kicker, I think about a lot of pressure. It's like you're on the sideline for a long time, but a lot of times you come in at these huge pressure moments, and I just wanted to hear what it's like on the sideline for you going through that process.
I kind of don't look at it like that. I just expect when they call my number, I expect to go out and make the kick. So I don't really overthink it. Right.
See, this is why you're a kicker and I can't be, because I wouldn't do well. You got the right mindset.
I don't know. And I think when you think positive and you're confident in what you're doing, I think the results usually come with it too.
Yeah, and in the Lions playbook, you don't have to tell us this if it's a secret. Is there a play where it's a fake field goal and you get to throw the ball to maybe like a receiver? I mean, is there something in the playbook?
We actually, yeah, we had one a few years ago, but as of now, I don't think they want me throwing the ball. Yeah, threw one a few years ago. We were lucky and completed it for a touchdown. It was pretty cool, but
that's great.
Yeah, but nice. Now I think our punter, who's the holder, was a quarterback in high school, so I think they'd rather have him throwing the ball if there was some kind of fake like that. I'm just assuming.
So we won't see any Matt Prater touchdown passes this year, unfortunately.
No, I don't see the two of us running an option.
No. So Matt, we talk fantasy football here. We're experts on the fantasy football world. Do you guys play fantasy football? Have you played it before? Are you familiar with it?
It's funny. I'm familiar with it. I've never actually played, but I have tons of friends and family members that play and talk about it quite a bit.
Okay, so we have an expert named Andrew who has no respect for kickers. And he has this whole theory. He has this whole theory he does every week on me because I respect the kickers. I think the kickers can make or break your week, as you know. And you were my number one pick this week to pick up because I love. Did you know
you were actually on our waiver wire?
Yeah, you're a huge star this week on our waiver wire
because we treasure you.
So we want to bring on Andrew, and he wants to explain to you his whole theory on kickers and why they're not that important in what he does every week with fantasy football. Here
he comes.
And here he comes. This is Andrew, and he actually won. Andrew, tell him what you did this week in football that you rate like the number one analyst in fantasy football this week.
I'm sure Matt will be very impressed. I work for a fantasy site called Fantasy Pros, and each week writers from all across the industry, like for CBS, ESPN, Yahoo, all those places, submit their rankings to the site and then it's measured based on how accurate it is. So this last week, 2 weeks ago, I was number 8 out of 170 writers in accuracy, and this last week I was number 1. So it was a good week for what I do. But
so his ego's big, right? His ego's huge right now, Matt.
Well, contrary to what
I'm impressed. I think that's pretty impressive.
It is impressive. I know, but
I didn't think I was going to get to brag about it to an NFL player this week. So thank you for making my day there, Ross. But I do have to object to what Ross said there about my lack of appreciation for kickers. I have a great appreciation for kickers, and I actually think that once I explain to you what it is that I believe about kickers in fantasy, you might understand it and agree with me even. You said something early in the interview I saw about getting the opportunity to kick that long field goal, and you just don't know if it's going to happen, right? When you're a kicker, you're sort of at the whims of the game, right? The game flow. So the best kicker in the league isn't necessarily going to make the most field goals that year, right? Or even the most extra points. It has a lot to do with that team's offense, their defense, the conditions, like you mentioned, so many other factors. So us fantasy football people, we're not we just push buttons. We don't do anything physically like you do. But for us, it's a numbers game. So what I try to do is I basically look at the probabilities, and I look at the fact that there are a lot of different things that affect which kicker might have a good week in a certain week, and that might not be factored in by the average fan that's not paying as close attention. So for that reason, I'll rotate my kickers during the course of the season and try to find one who maybe plays for a team that has a big lead. They're favored by a lot of points. So maybe they'll be ahead in the second half and they'll be kicking field goals in the second half because they're playing with a lead. They'll play a little more conservatively, right? Instead of going for it on fourth down. So that kind of situation. So I don't know if that's something that you can sort of, wrap your head around a little bit in terms of your experience as a kicker.
I totally agree with you. If you, say on a certain team is going, to play somewhere on the road that not only could the conditions be tough, but also playing a really good defense. And so just the opportunities that could be almost next to zero, and if you get a guy that goes, 4 for 4 on extra points and has 2 chip shot field goals, he's going to be one of the leading scorers. So I would definitely agree with you on all that.
See, Ross, there you go.
Okay, fine. Hey, Matt, so growing up, I know you kicked in high school, you kicked in college.
Yeah.
What kicker did you look up to? Who was like the guy that you wanted to meet, who wanted you to get some tips from? Who was somebody that you really was thought was the best kicker when you were growing up?
It was definitely hands down Adam Vinatieri. He was the man.
Did you get to meet him?
Sense.
Yeah, it was actually really cool. I just remember watching all of his big, clutch kicks in the biggest, moment possible, which was so cool to watch. But I was lucky. A few years ago, we went down and did a week of training camp with the Colts. So I got to hang out with him all week and pick his brain a little bit. It was really cool.
That's great. So
that's
I
great.
didn't tell him
I was actually
I was a huge fan.
I actually was at the Super Bowl that he won, that first Patriots one. It's the only Super Bowl I ever went to, and I dreamed of going to the Super Bowl as a kid, and just to see that was
that's awesome.
It was
I grew up in
incredible.
Boston, so everyone there loves Vinatieri.
Yeah, he's the man. He's the man.
Yeah.
How's Adrian Peterson to in practice? How's he to hang out with?
He's awesome. He's as advertised too. He's it's awesome seeing a guy basically my age still playing at such a high level. Practices hard, awesome teammate, just awesome guy.
No, he's like age doesn't affect him. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And now you have that rookie from Georgia, Swift, who had a great game last week, and he'll be getting probably half the handoffs this week, right, Andrew?
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see. Matt might know some insider info about how they're going to share those backfield touches, but they still got Kerryon Johnson. They still got AP, as Matt mentioned, so they got three really accomplished running backs there to choose from.
Andrew could be number one again if you give him the inside scoop.
Yeah, I need my insider trading.
This is how we do it. We bring on sometimes it's a kicker, sometimes it's a linebacker, but we try to get the inside information, then we funnel it to Andrew and prop him up as our expert.
Yes.
Actually, Matt, I wanted to ask a question about kicking. This is, it came to me almost as a joke, but I realized it's kind of true. You must have to take care of your kicking leg, especially. Do you not even think about that? Clearly I don't have the mindset of being a kicker.
No, you definitely do. You want to take care of your entire body, though, especially at such a long season. It's cool. At our facility, we have a lot of things we can use as far we have massage therapists that come in and stretch you. We have have you guys ever tried that cryotherapy?
I haven't tried it.
I've never tried it.
Tell us about it.
It's awesome. You go in this machine for 2 minutes. It's the nitrogen goes in there and it gets to negative 200 degrees in there. And 2 minutes, and it's almost equivalent to 10 minutes in the ice bath.
And it works. I mean, you feel rejuvenated.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it.
It really works.
But it's not that uncomfortable.
It's pretty cold, but you
negative 200 sounds pretty cold.
Yeah, it's not. I think you get used to it like anything else.
Do you work out with all with everybody else on the team? Do you go in the weight room and do weights with all the players?
Yeah, we do the off-season program. We all kind of do the same stuff, same running. I just
are you competitive with some of the running backs and the linebackers?
I always liked to lift weights. I've always been into lifting and going and getting extra. So I'll bench with anybody. It doesn't matter.
That's great. No, I've seen some kickers that are I remember Sebastian Janikowski. I've been to a gym with him before, and he benches close to 400 pounds.
Right.
And just a beast. And I've seen some of these kickers, and in the uniform they look small, but you get them out of the uniform, they're lifting just as much as some of the running backs and wide receivers on the team. It's kind of deceptive, which I think is great, because in the old days the kickers would never pick up a weight, as you know, but now they're all staying in shape and they're looking good, and they're actually they look like athletes now. Compared to Warren Anderson from the past, or I can name some more George Blanda.
Or remember Garo Yepremian? Do you remember this? He was in the Super Bowl and he threw the ball in the air.
A couple years ago too, but
yeah,
that's true.
I dropped 20 pounds in the last year.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I got a little heavy set for a year or two.
So what did you do? Did you stop drinking? Did you stop?
Kind of bit it.
You on the Tom Brady diet, or?
No, I can't diet like that, especially with 3 kids. But started eating better and kind of changed up the workouts and different things I was doing. So
great. And you watch college football, right? You went to school in Florida. You still support your old alumni, Central Florida, correct?
Yep. UCF.
Yeah. they're always pretty good in football. You still watch the games and you still cheer for them, obviously.
Yeah, anytime they're on TV, I watch.
I'm happy to see they're back on TV. I mean, the season almost was canceled, but the Big Ten's starting up this weekend, which is great.
Sure, everyone in Michigan's super pumped. I went to University of Michigan, so
okay,
we're ready for some Big Ten football.
For sure, it was cool. This offseason, I actually worked with their specialists quite a bit.
Oh, did you? Cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Awesome. They have some specialists.
If you had to train an relatively out of shape 46-year-old man to kick a field goal, how long of a field goal do you think you could get me to kick? I'm just curious.
I'd give you probably a 40-yarder if I worked with you for a little bit.
Wow.
Oh my god.
That gets you that extra point in fantasy if it's over 40 yards. There, Dan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A 4-point field goal.
Yeah. Anytime I miss a kick, the first people usually that reach out to me are fantasy owners.
Well, I was going to say, Matt, you're always one of the more popular kickers to have on the team because you're so good at kicking those over 50-yarders because you get the extra bonus for if it's over 50 yards. You get 5 points.
I was probably on the waiver wire in your league because the only misses I've had this year over 55 yards, and so it's like
I couldn't pick you up after the waiver wire. I was like, I'm picking up Matt Prater, and you're owned.
I saw the 57-yarder you attempted, but it was little to the left. You had enough leg.
Yeah, I just it stinks.
You
get to go out for those long opportunities. I just didn't hit it as well as I should have. I kind of just didn't hit the football clean, and it kept going left and missed left.
So this weekend, tell us about this weekend and your chances this weekend. What do you think is going to happen? Give us a quick prediction.
We're playing the Falcons, and we've been studied them. They look really good on tape. So we'll see. Their offense, they have so many weapons on offense, and their defense is fast and playing pretty well. So yeah,
it should be a lot of field goals. I think you'll have like at least 3 field goals this weekend. Andrew, what do you think, Mr. Expert?
Yeah, I think so. I think there should be a lot of points scored in that game. So I'm expecting a great game from Matt this week.
Okay, Matt. Well, we're rooting for you this week. We all picked you up. We're excited. We can't wait to see what happens on Sunday. Thanks for coming on.
No, thank you guys. That was fun. I'd come back on anytime. That was cool.
That'd be great. Okay, thanks, Matt.
Please do.
I'm Ross the Boss.
Thanks, Matt.
And that was Matt Prater, the all-time record in 64-yarder in NFL history.
Okay, guys, it's time for Take Your Pick. We're going to find out how we did last week. Now, of course, Lauren, you weren't here last week, so you didn't make a pick, but as someone, some guru on our staff pointed out, that means you couldn't have gotten it wrong. But Ross, Kasey, what do you guys remember about your picks? I'm trying to even remember who I picked.
I did pretty well. I took a young man that went to Texas A&M University. He plays for the Arizona Cardinals. He had 2 touchdowns. He had 3 catches for 87 yards. He had 2 touchdowns in the first half, did nothing in the second half. Didn't matter. Christian Kirk, he was unbelievable. Genius move by Ross the Boss. I hope everybody followed me. Again, I'm sure I beat all these other people on this panel. There's no way they could beat Ross the Boss, but let's see what happened.
You certainly beat me. I took Jamison Crowder for the Jets. He did have 7 receptions, so if it's a PPR league, that's redeemable, but he had less than 50 yards. So the Jets' offense all around was pretty putrid, and Crowder was a victim of that.
And I took Myles Gaskin, so I guess I'm in the middle here. He had a solid game. I don't believe he scored. I'm not recalling, but I don't think so. I think he had like 80 yards, did not score. So Ross clearly won, and he won by halftime. And I was off in Vegas betting on the Cardinals based on Ross's tip, if you remember.
My pick of the week, I told you to go to the bank, mortgage your house, get as much money as you can. I know you have a 20-bedroom house with 10 bathrooms, so I'm sure you made a lot of money, and you went to Vegas and you put it all on Arizona, right, Dan? Is that correct?
Listen, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That's right.
All right, now
talk about it.
Dalton at night. Ross the Boss was right with that one. You always bet against Dalton at night. It's easy money, we call it easy money, like Rodney Dangerfield.
All right, let's get to the picks. Ross has been a genius last week. We'll see if he keeps it up. Now, we pick based on the Fantasy Pros consensus rankings of I can't even remember how many experts. When we bring in Fantasy Pros expert Andrew Seifert, he'll tell us. But we pick wide receivers and running backs outside of the top 24. Kasey, would you like to go first, or would you like to do the honors, Lauren? Jump in. Anybody?
Go for it, Lauren.
I'll go.
I'll see.
Okay. I am going to go with Brandon Cooks this week. Since Romeo Crennel has taken over 2 weeks ago, Cooks basically has been cooking. And in those weeks, Cooks has combined for 17 catches, 229 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Will Fuller should be covered by Jair Alexander for this game, and he is a shutdown cornerback. So Cooks should be getting the plus matchup here. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think that Deshaun Watson is going to be airing it out, and I think that this is another game where Cooks will be cooking.
Good pick. He was one of my backups, but I didn't have him number 1. Kasey.
I'm going to go with Latavius Murray from the New Orleans Saints. He's been averaging between 10 and 12 carries per game the last few weeks. He's a kind of a touchdown vulture at times. They're playing the Carolina Panthers, so I expect them to be up a lot and then maybe try to get Kamara some rest. And so I think Murray will probably get you 50 or 60 yards and probably find the end zone for you. And considering where he's ranked in the rankings, I think that's a pretty good steal.
And as a bye week fill-in, not so bad. All right, Ross, you.
I have a great pick this week. I'm going all the way to my favorite team, the Cincinnati Bengals. They're playing Cleveland in Cincinnati. This guy had 125 yards last week, and the number 1 receiver was A.J. Green, who had 8 receptions, 90-something yards. My guy, T. Higgins, who I'm taking this week, he's going to have, I say, 2 touchdowns, 110 yards. You heard it from me first. I'm Ross the Boss.
Wow.
Now, Ross, he was my number 1 wide receiver pick. I'm going to go with a running back, though. J.D. McKissick is playing the Dallas Cowboys, and everybody is running like crazy on the Dallas Cowboys. I think McKissick should be good for 100 yards and a score.
I like that pick.
So
he
we're
was
going to
my
see how
number
that
1 running back. That's funny you said that.
Nice. We're thinking alike. I like it's because we met up in Vegas and we traded picks.
Don't talk about it.
Was,
it stays there.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It stays in Vegas.
Gosh,
so let's bring in Fantasy Pros expert Andrew Seifter. You may have heard on the interview with Matt Prater that he ranked number 1 out of 170 experts. Number 1. Andrew, how did you do this?
Well, I did the same thing that I do every week. It just worked a little better this time, I guess.
That's all you got to do.
It's actually my column this week talks about the process a little bit. It's hard because when you're doing rankings, the way I think about it, it's sort of like imagine if you had to set your lineup and you owned every player in the entire league. That's kind of what it's like.
Who were your picks? I didn't see who you picked. Tell us who you picked. I have no idea.
Who I picked?
Why you were number 1 last week? Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you get to be number 1?
Well, so that blew up in my face. That was McCole Hardman, who I hyped up pretty hard, and he put up a complete goose egg. He only got 1 target, which was shocking, honestly. He was seeing more targets than that when Sammy Watkins was on the field, and then Sammy Watkins gets hurt, and suddenly Hardman disappears from the offense. So
no, I'm talking about your big win in your fantasy.
Oh, I ranked every player in the league, Ross. That's what I do. I rank every single player in the league.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
So he finished number 1.
Who was number 1?
Even
Who
with
was number 1 in each
Hardman.
thing?
The number 1 player, I'd have to go back and look.
Oh, you don't remember? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, you can.
But I mean, honestly, I ranked like 500 players.
I got it. I understand.
Give us your pick for this week.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Melvin Gordon with the Broncos. They're playing the Chiefs, and I think people often wrongly assume that when you're playing the Chiefs, you're not going to be able to run the ball that much. You're going to have to throw it to keep up with Mahomes and company. And the stats don't actually bear that out. It's a couple years running now that the Chiefs have actually been really stingy against the pass, but they're kind of not so great against the run. This year they actually allow the 3rd most rushing yards per week of any team in the league. And, Philip Lindsay had a big game while Melvin Gordon was dealing with his strep throat. We know he had that DUI too, so he's been kind of out of the picture for a little while here. But the last game Melvin Gordon played, he went over 100 yards, had 2 touchdowns. And I think the good news, it's hard to know exactly how the carries might split between the two, but the good news is that with that Kansas City defense allowing so much, I think the Broncos are going to run the ball as much as they possibly can to keep Mahomes off the field. So I think actually Lindsey could be a sneaky play too, but Gordon is my choice.
He was my 2nd running back, and I just traded him, so that's a surefire sign that he's going to go off. All right, let's talk about the games now. We've got Pittsburgh at Tennessee. This is a battle of some heavyweights. Tennessee is favored by 1.5 points. Who do you start in this game? What are you guys looking for? What's the game flow going to be like?
Ross the Boss will tell you should bet first. You should bet Pittsburgh. Both teams are undefeated. This is the battle of the undefeated. This is definitely the best game of the whole week. Ross the Boss is going to take Pittsburgh. I think they'll win the game outright. I don't think the points will matter, but Pittsburgh will win. On the Pittsburgh side, I mean, it's the usual characters. Claypool, you got Connor, you got Ben Roethlisberger. The only guy I would probably sit is maybe Smith-Schuster. I'm not too high on him anymore. I'm kind of off the whole Smith-Schuster thing. But that's Ross the Boss. And on the other side, they have some guy named Derrick Henry. I never heard of him. Have you guys ever heard of this guy, Derrick Henry?
What? No.
He was pretty good.
He might have been near the top of my rankings.
Never heard of him.
Ross.
He has a cape in back of his head that he runs with. But basically, Derrick Henry's a beast.
He could be in our monsters and villains bracket at this point.
Tannehill, AJ
That's
Brown.
true.
It's going to be the usual cast of
I
characters.
do want to point out that I think Roethlisberger has gotten to the point. I'm usually a huge Roethlisberger fan, but I do think he's actually gotten to the point where he's a little overrated in fantasy. He hasn't been putting up big passing numbers this year. He's throwing touchdowns, but he's only thrown like over 240 yards in one game this season. So it's kind of interesting how that offense has evolved, even though they do have all those passing game weapons. And Tennessee's an exploitable matchup, but I actually have him outside of my top 12 quarterbacks this week.
Andrew, who do I start? Roethlisberger or Breeze? I got both of them on my team. Who's the start?
Or Tannehill.
I don't have
I would
Tannehill.
start Tannehill.
I'm kidding.
I don't have
Personally,
Tannehill.
Even
Breeze
against
or
Pittsburgh. I
Roethlisberger?
just
Go.
think. Well, I'll go with Roethlisberger
Okay.
in that matchup. Breeze is, it's not. I mean, they're playing Carolina, and that's a matchup where you want to run the ball. So I don't think Breeze and Michael Thomas may not even play. So go with
Let's do Seattle at Arizona. I'm going to start with Kasey and Lawrence since they got shut out like the Jets against the Dolphins.
They did. When they start talking, it's hard to get a word in. I like, again, Seattle and Arizona. Again, you start, I think, all of your regulars. I think this could be one of the higher scoring games of the week, just because you got such awesome weapons on both sides of the ball.
Do you think Drake is going to have another big game? I mean, he just played Dallas, so
that's a tricky situation. I mean, I guess they both, he and Edmonds could both have good games. They have two talented running backs. Edmonds, I think, is more of the ball catcher than Drake. Although
you really
Andrew
could
probably
start
know the
them
stats.
both this week. I mean, I'm starting them both in a
possible,
deeper league.
But
yeah,
I think Casey's right. Like Edmonds is a good pass catching back, so this is a good matchup for him because they're going to have to throw a lot to keep up with Seattle.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
What do
that
you think, Lauren?
I would favor Edmonds a little bit more than Drake, only because I think that Arizona is going to have to be, throwing so much in order to keep up with Seattle. And I'm just not sure that, they're going to be utilizing Drake as, I think they're going to be playing from behind. And so it'll be Edmond with the pass catching. But I think that, you're playing everyone though. And this is just going to be, everyone's just going to be airing it out. So.
Well, I also did want to say at this point in the season, especially if there's a lot of buys going on, you really are going to be playing most of the guys.
Yeah.
You start to get into territory where you may be playing some fringe guys. I don't know, Ross. What do you think about Kirk this week? Because
I like Christian.
He
I
had
like
a huge
Christian
game,
Kirk.
but he didn't catch many passes.
I don't love him as much as did last week. Hopkins should have a big week. I like him a lot. I think Fitzgerald. I think you'll see him come back too. Something tells me he'll be big this game. I don't know why. It's the battle of Murray versus. I mean, it's a battle of the young and the old. I think. You know what I mean? On one side you have a young hot quarterback, and on the other side you have the MVP right now of the league. So that being said, I think this game's going to go way over. If you're betting, bet the over. I don't know who's going to win. I'm kind of torn on it. If I had to bet, I would take Arizona in the points, but that's Ross the Boss. But it's going to be a high-scoring game. You heard it from me. It's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait. Russell Wilson will at least have 300 yards passing.
How about San Francisco at New England? I don't think that I'm not super high on anybody on San Francisco because the running back situation is a total mess. You just don't know what to expect. I mean, if you need a dart throw, you can start McKinnon. You might even be able to start what's the guy's name?
Start George
Hasty.
Kittle.
You definitely start George Kittle no matter what.
Yeah,
but
you
even
definitely
so,
start Kittle.
and Kittle should do just fine. But New England's got a good defense. Yeah.
I would be willing to play McKinnon as like a low end RB2. I mean, I think we don't know exactly how Shanahan's going to do it, but whoever, is likely to be the lead ball carrier for San Francisco, that's a player that you want in your lineup regardless of matchup. So I would take a gamble on McKinnon.
What are your thoughts?
It's true, and he's the most likely one to be that guy.
What are your thoughts on
I
Cam
hate this
Newton?
game fantasy wise. I hate this game. If you have players in this game, try not to start them. It's gonna be a low scoring game. I feel it.
I agree. This is like a 13 to 10
I would stay
game.
away. I mean,
I agree. I think Cam Newton, though, with the rushing, that's really what saves him. I was working on my rankings earlier today, and I wanted to move him down to like 15 at QB. And then I looked at his rushing numbers, and even last week when he was really terrible throwing the ball, he still ended up as like the 11th QB just because of the huge rushing numbers, the rushing touchdown. I think he's got like 5 rushing touchdowns already this season or something. So that kind of keeps him at that like low end quarterback 1, even if they don't. I mean, he's basically sapped the value out of the rest of that entire offense. You don't really want the running backs in New England. You don't want the receivers. It's really the Cam show, but I think Cam's still a low end QB1.
Yeah, I think that if the Patriots are going to do well, then Cam's going to have to step up, and that is the one area that the Patriots can exploit because San Francisco's given up the second most fantasy points on the ground to quarterbacks. So that is one area. It's like if
good stat, Lauren.
Cam needs to do well,
Man,
it'll
she's
all
pulling
go
them all
down.
out today.
Love it.
But
I'm moving Brandon Cooks up my rankings after your spiel there too.
there you go.
Yeah, now Andrew will be ranked number 1 with like a little Lauren in parentheses.
A little Lauren
1A,
asterisk.
1B.
How about Cleveland at Cincinnati? I always loved this matchup as a Browns fan. It's such a it's the Battle of Ohio, and it always ends up 23-20. I feel like that's always the score, unless it's 41-38. But Ross, you love this game too. I know you've already talked about Higgins. I agree. I think he's going to have a big game. The Browns have
I love
some
this game.
weaknesses in the back.
I'm betting the Bengals big. I feel Baker Mayfield's a huge disappointment. I think he's very close of losing his job in Cleveland. He's making horrible decisions. He's not hitting the receivers where he should. Odell Beckham Jr. is not barely in the offense anymore. You've got one of the best receivers.
There I'm going to
in the
disagree
league.
with you.
He's barely.
There I'm going to disagree with you.
Ask Andrew. He'll tell you about Odell Beckham Jr.
I want to hear what Dan has to say first.
Yeah, what do you have to say? I want to hear your genius.
All right, so here's
thing
what
about
I have
Odell.
to say. So it's actually not about Odell. I'm sorry, I wasn't disagreeing about that necessarily, but I can disagree about that if you want. It's more that I don't think Baker Mayfield's about to lose his job. He plays well against bad teams. He does not play well against good teams. He hasn't gotten over the hump yet. I think the Browns would be silly to move on from Baker Mayfield. You give him, give him the season to see. The problem with Baker is that he's hurting right
Baker
now.
Mayfield's not going anywhere. But
at least I can start the rumor. I can start the rumor that he's going, guys. I can at least
start it.
You did.
You heard it here first.
I mean, I think Joe Burrow's getting better every week. And AJ Green is showing some life. You guys all gave up on him.
Andrew and
he's
his
showing life again. Andrew actually dropped him in the league.
He's going to flame out.
We're going around LA.
No.
that was a
I don't
league
like
with a lot of receivers on the waiver wire. But
AJ Green and Drew Sample. I know Kasey loves Drew Sample.
I'm a fan.
I know you're a fan, Kasey. So he's
1
gonna have
yard
a huge
sample
game too.
That's
I say
right.
the Bengals win by 14 points over Cleveland on Sunday.
Kareem Hunt is going to have him. We have to mention Kareem Hunt. He's going to have a monster game. He's going to run all over the Bengals. By the way,
But I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you really want to invest too heavily in the Browns passing game right now. I mean, Odell's kind of like a low end wide receiver too. We just found out that Landry has actually been playing with a broken rib, which might explain part of why he's been so terrible. But either way, I don't think he's no longer a wide receiver 3 even every week. So really, with the Browns, it's really just Hunt and maybe Odell. As a low end wide receiver.
And they're coming into the jungle, guys. They'll be in the jungle playing against the Bengals.
And we got to watch out with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's got a foot issue going on.
He's fine.
So
just tape it up.
One last point. If Landry is out, then Rashard Higgins becomes, I think, a viable play. He's a back end guy, of course, but in a bye week, I'd be comfortable with him over a lot of
2 catches,
other players,
30 yards. He's not. Don't start here.
He scored the last 2 games, and if Landry's out, he's gonna be good.
Maybe 35 yards.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that if you're going to be starting a
7
tight
yards.
end here, you need to be starting Austin Hooper over Sample. Right now, I think Hooper is like.
That hurts.
I mean, I think he's had more targets than OBJ and Landry, and he's acting essentially as kind of like their second receiving option. And
Let me just make a counter. Sorry, Lauren. Go ahead, you finish, and then I'll make this point.
I was gonna say, and that Cincinnati allows a bunch of targets to tight ends, and Austin Hooper's really been stepping up in the past 3 games. I think that he's had, 5 catches each game, but he started off slow, but he's catching fire, and I think that I just feel like Hooper could get a touchdown this game.
I could be wrong about this, but my interpretation of that is that they were playing good teams, and that means Hooper's getting a lot of dump-off passes. I think against a better team, you're going to see Hooper less involved, actually.
I
don't know for
Cincinnati
sure.
wins in this, and I think that the Browns will be behind, and so I think that actually this does set up a nice game script for Hooper.
I just think given the state of tight end, Hooper at least is, he's got a pulse, which is more than you can say for about half of the tight ends in the league right now.
That's true. All right, last game, we got to make this quick, but it's the Monday night game, so I feel like we have to talk about it. And it's, the Bears have done so well this season. So the Bears are at the LA Rams. The Rams get 6 points in this. I don't buy that at all. I
think this is a low-scoring game. I think this is just going to be a battle of the defenses. I think that you could see some really ugly quarterback play. It's like Nick Foles hasn't really stepped up offensively, and Jared Goff, is kind of Jekyll and Hyde, and I think that Chicago will pressure him, and we all know he does terrible once he's pressured. There's no one really fantasy-wise that I'm super excited about, and the Rams have kind of switched to their running team now, so I don't really love.
And they spread the ball out so much amongst all the players. It's hard to have one volume. They don't have one volume.
Everything
guy
is a committee
or 2
with the
volume
Rams.
guys.
Yeah.
So it's miserable for fantasy purposes.
Yeah,
This is
it's
just
like
like,
similar to the Patriots.
game.
It's these smart coaches have managed to figure out a way to make all their players not fantasy viable.
I think
still winning
you have
games.
to start Allen Robinson. So
here's the thing. You're probably
Robinson.
going to start Allen Robinson, but at the same time, he's going to probably get shadow coverage from Jalen Ramsey. And Jalen Ramsey had a rough week 1, and since then he's basically been the best corner in the NFL. Yeah. So I mean, if you have Allen Robinson in a season-long league, you're probably going to start him. But to me, I have him at like wide receiver 18 this week, which is a lot lower than the consensus, because I just think he's going to get shut down. So
I agree with you. I think there are 3 players you start in this game. It's Montgomery, right? You guys like Montgomery? I feel
for
2
volume.
touchdowns.
Yep, I agree.
For
100
volume,
yards, big game. I like Robert Woods. Every week, this guy catches a touchdown. He's so consistent. It's Monday Night Football. He'll be there. He'll have a touchdown at least. And I feel this. I know you guys won't agree with me, but I'll say it here. Is I think Henderson for the Rams is going to score and have a lot of yards, because they'll get the ball to him.
I hope so, because he's a bye week running back for me this week. So
I like Henderson, and I agree with Lauren. Low scoring, 16-13 final. It'd be a very low scoring game.
Yeah.
Great stuff, guys. We're going to see how the picks come in. It's up next is going to be Monster Madness, and we're having Howie Mandel on for Monster Madness. I can't wait for that.
Nice.
But first, it's Ross's rant. Ross, I'm going to make you really rush today. You only have 29 seconds for Ross's rant. Go!
29 seconds. Here we go. Let's talk about NFL football. We had some good football. We had bad football. This is the first year in the NFL history, after 6 games, we have 10 teams that either have 1 win or 0 wins. It's unbelievable. It's really bad football. What I think it is, it's a race for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, who's coming out of Clemson, is the pick of the century. This happens every 100 years. This is the guy to get. I think teams are fighting for him. We'll see who gets him. It's going to be unbelievable, but I'm excited. I'm Ross the Boss.
Welcome to Monster Madness. We have another very special edition. We have Howie Mandel on with us as one of our judges of who's going to win these 4 matchups. Of course, we have Ross the Boss. We have Kasey with me as always. And so, Howie, I explained this to you a little bit, but I'm going to explain it a little bit again. So
be honest, but be honest with me. Do you think I'm qualified to judge?
Oh, you're more than qualified to judge this.
Okay, I just wanted to.
But listen,
have you judged
Howie,
the show before? Does he have any experience at all judging?
Yeah, that's true. You have experience judging.
I mean,
look.
Okay, let's get
There's
some.
always a first time. We'll give this a shot.
At the end, you can tell us if we've got talent. And then also, I'm a therapist, so I'll pitch you a show called Heal or No Heal. All right. Now,
I see what you did there, you nut. Go ahead.
There you go. All right. So our first matchup in the Midwest, we've got Superman, a Midwesterner no less, unless you take him from Krypton.
You said Superman,
He's
right?
facing
You said
Superman.
Yeah, okay.
Superman. He said
Superman.
it weird. I agree with you. He didn't.
Did I?
Superman. And I
Superman.
thought that's a Midwest.
I
that's a
thought it was like
Midwest kind of
Stuber.
hero.
You know, Superman. He's not very smart. He's facing off against Dumbledore.
Superman. He wears the cape on the front. That way he doesn't get his shirt dirty. It's like
So
a,
Superman's
it's
the
like a
one
bib.
seed.
No, it's actually a bib. It's a bib.
It's a bib.
Superman's the one
Lobsters
seed.
on it.
Dumbledore. You're a Harry Potter guy?
No, I'm not.
Well, I will update you so you have some. Okay, Dumbledore was an old wizard, very powerful. He was very nurturing to children.
Right.
And that's mostly what you need to know. So
Like
listen,
Jeffrey
you can.
Epstein nurturing?
No. I mean,
Gosh, I hope
listen.
not.
I'm a psychologist. He was actually good for children. Yeah, good.
Oh, but
good
you're
for
saying
children.
it was a bad guy. I was just thinking he was a bad guy.
No, it's not always a hero against a villain.
It's exactly. It's a hero and villains bracket. Heroes can match up against heroes. Villains can match up against villains.
Are you changing the rules as I play?
Listen, Howie, you get to argue this any way you want. You've got Superman against an old wizard that you don't know. Let's start
Right.
there. Who do you think's going to win?
I have to say it's Superman. And that why, can I ask a question before I just lock that in? And I don't know if I'm locking anything.
No,
Does
go ahead.
Dubbeldorf, or what's his name again?
Dumbledore. Yeah,
Dumbledore.
I almost called him Stuperman and Dumbledore. That's very strange.
Dumbledore. Does he have a cape?
No, he wears a robe.
Ah.
With
cape
no
wins.
underwear.
Cape over robe. Cape over robe. Game over.
Cape over robe. There you go. Game over.
Telling
All right.
you.
Ross, who do you have?
So it's first of all, it's Superman versus a character from a children's book. So it's a no-brainer.
Ross hates children.
Superman's the Man of Steel. He's not going to lose to some stupid wizard. There's no way. All he has to do is like use his flying powers, take the wizard and just throw him into space, and the guy's dead. He's not going to do anything. So I'm taking Superman. He's going to knock him out in the first round. That's my.
Can I ask one more question? Dumbledore. Does he give me what he like? What in the? Because I haven't seen those movies. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. Tell me something he's done. Like, I know what Superman can do, and I know that he can fly and he can bend steel and he's faster than a speeding bullet and able to leap
Kasey,
tall buildings at
remind
single
me.
bound. What?
Yeah, Kasey, remind me, what does Dumbledore do? I mean, I have an
How are
11
you
and
in
a
this
7-year-old.
discussion without even knowing what he does?
No. You got to hear me out. I did know. But then I had kids for 10 years and I don't remember
He
anything.
makes kids into
Dumbledore-
animals. He's a weirdo. I mean, there's no way he can beat Superman.
Maybe
Superman
he is
can-
a little
Here's
like
the thing,
Jeffrey Epstein.
Like in this game, like it's a bracket
He's
like
that with
March
kids.
Madness.
I feel this,
Like it's a bracket for March Madness. When you pick your players in March Madness, you know what their position is, you know what their strengths are, you know what their weaknesses are, you know what their teams do. I don't know what Dumbledore. Just tell me something.
Dumbledore
fantastic
wasn't
that
a large bid. And listen, he would cast spells that were things like disarm your wand. He was pretty. I mean, I never thought that Dumbledore would go far in this.
at one point,
It's Superman for
Dumbledore
me.
had what was called the Elder Wand in the book, which was the most powerful wand in the world. And so technically at that point, he was the most powerful wizard in the
But he has
in the
too
Harry
much
Potter
restraint.
universe at that
He has
stage.
too much
this
restraint.
sounds. This is a podcast, right? This sounds like we're
Podcast
talking
too,
about the
yep.
wrong thing. This is a children's guy with the most powerful wand in the world. I don't
Correct.
like him.
And
I
he
want
liked,
the cake.
and he liked
This
to
is
use
this
it
is
around
sounding more and
children
more
as
like
well.
it is
So
Jeff Epstein.
It could be
Oh
Jeffrey
my God.
Epstein. But
This
I
is
mean, to
getting
get back to
disturbing.
the actual issue, I don't think that, as much as I've said magic trumps strength, I don't agree with it here. I'm a huge Dumbledore fan. I read the books, and
Really?
enjoyed the books, but Superman would I think demolish him unless magically he could produce kryptonite, which I don't think was any of the spells.
Dumbledore
that
would come
he
up and he'd
managed.
try to be nurturing, and Superman would grab him by the robe and spin him and throw him directly into space. Okay, we don't even need a tiebreaker on this
didn't even
one.
argue.
Now the next one.
There's no argument.
We did. There was no argument on that one.
Did I win?
Here, we're gonna. You won.
Deal
You
or
won.
no
It was-
deal. Yep.
We
I'm
were.
good at this. I am good at this. I don't understand the game, but I'm so good at this.
We were all gonna go Dumbledore, and you convinced us. All right, Howie, do you know who Dr. Manhattan is from The Watchmen?
Did you watch The Watchmen on HBO?
I saw a couple of episodes. I don't know what his powers are.
So the Watchman is the smartest guy in the world. He can do anything.
No. Wait, Ross, you can't. If you tell, then Dr. Manhattan wins automatically. We got
Okay, then you tell him. That's
See, for me, the Watchmen was, I'm in my 60s. So for me, the Watchmen was somebody in the 80s or the early 80s got me a Walkman. And then I got a Watchman, which was a Walkman with a TV on it.
That's right.
So that against what?
Okay, it's against Frankenstein's Monster. Frankenstein's Monster, the Mary Shelley version.
No,
We're not talking the Phil Hartman, no brain version.
I got it.
Or the young
So Dr. Manhattan, though, is kind of all powerful. And yeah, go ahead.
It's the Watchman. There's no, and I'll tell you why. Because he's the smartest guy in the world, and Dr. Frankenstein's monster. I don't know specifically what the IQ number was, but it was
It's a mismatch of brains, that's for sure.
There isn't the brain. He put every part together except the brain. He didn't.
It's Abby Normal.
Now we're.
It's Abby Normal versus the smartest man in the world. I mean.
Yeah, he's outwitted. He's going to be outwitted by the Watchmen.
And look, if Dr. Manhattan could beat the Hulk, he can beat Frankenstein's monster. Essentially, Frankenstein's monster is a lesser version of the Hulk.
So, Ross, you love Dr. Manhattan. Don't say too much because we're going to move on to the more interesting
That's fine.
matchups.
Unbelievable,
I wanna
baby.
hear those.
This is an easy win for Dr. Manhattan. I don't have to go on and on about it. But my guy right now is Dr. Manhattan to win the whole thing. So I'm taking Dr. Manhattan. If you like it, that's great. If you don't, you're going to lose anyway. Dr. Manhattan is my pick.
Okay, now we've got some actual good matchups to argue.
Okay,
we have the number 14 seed Wonder Woman. She upset Neptune, the sea god of Greek myth, and she has to face Freddy Krueger. And wait, am I remembering correctly that you played the voice of Gizmo in Gremlins?
Yes, I do.
Oh my God.
That is awesome.
I still do it.
Oh my God. That I was not expecting that. But I don't know why I thought you wouldn't be able to do it.
That just cost us a fortune to see, from doing the voice. He charges a lot of voices to see, so.
Well, listen, Freddy Krueger was around the same time as Gremlins, and so it just came to mind. But Freddy Krueger he's a big sleeper pick of mine. We always make that joke because of the sleep thing, but he really is dangerous because he's always, he's in dreams. How do you get him? So Wonder Woman against Freddy Krueger. Start us off, Howie. Or if you want to go second, you can.
I'll go with the Wonder Woman, and I'll tell you why. Freddy Krueger was never. I know he gets you in your dream, right? But I think if just you take. Can I add something to it? Wonder Woman
always
and a cup of coffee. She's got him. She's up. She just has to stay awake, and she's got him. That's it.
She runs out the
That's
clock.
true.
He never shows up.
All right, but I'm going to make a counter argument. Like, does Freddy Krueger exist outside of dreams? I mean, she can wait him out, but can she beat him that way? I don't think she can. And eventually,
well, he never shows up and she stays awake.
Yeah, but what is his power? His power is he shows up and then he just sticks his nails. He's just a slicer and a dicer.
Yeah, I mean, he's also disgusting. Yes.
I'm not talking about you're gonna. Are we rating this on looks?
I just, you can argue anything you want. I mean, she could be scared to death of Freddy Krueger. It's possible.
Now, are you talking about the classic Wonder Woman from the comic books? Are you talking about the what's her name? How do you say her name?
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot.
Everybody says it different. 3 people said it, and you all said it different. So I don't know which one.
She's Israeli, so I say it the Israeli way. But yeah, she. I think it's a combination. Carter? It's a combination of everything. I think we talk about with Wonder Woman, the comic book, Linda Carter, and Gal.
Well, again, it's kind of like that superhero versus a scary dream monster. A superhero every time.
I respect that argument. I am going to go with Freddy Krueger. I don't see any way that Wonder Woman can stay awake that long. And in dreams, she's no better off than anybody else. That's my
argument. No. Why isn't she herself in a dream? That's not a good argument, but I see what you're doing as a show host. You're just trying to make it interesting and not agree with me. I don't even believe that your choice is real.
I actually do.
That Wonder Woman would win. I believe that you agree with me.
What's Wonder Woman going to do? Even with her powers. I mean,
but doesn't
she can't
Freddy
lasso his?
Doesn't Freddy Krueger lose at the end of every one of his movies? So he's clearly not invincible.
I'm not saying he's invincible, but he also kills many people throughout the movie.
Can I say something?
But not
in real life.
Of course.
In real life, Wonder Woman has amazing powers. She's a superhero.
True.
I, in real life, have no powers. When I fall asleep in my dream, you should see what I can fly. I can fight. I can
Ooh,
do things.
okay.
So why are you taking away her power when she falls asleep? I would imagine
This
in
is
a
good.
dream she's more enhanced.
Yeah,
That's
this
an
is pretty weird
excellent
too because
argument.
I'm a therapist. I should know better. All right, Ross, what do you have to say?
I agree with Howie. I mean, Wonder Woman has the lasso. She can wrap the lasso around him and get the truth out of him. She has a bunch of power. She's strong. She knows how to fight. I think there's no way she's going to lose to Freddy Krueger. This woman's invincible, and she has the invisible plane too. She can fly around and find the guy.
I hate to say it, but I think Howie did actually convince me that my
I'm
pick
taking
was
Wonder
wrong.
Woman. Freddy Krueger, he's not going to have any chance against Wonder Woman. Come on, you can't be serious.
Again, going back to clothing again, because that's how I get, at the beginning it started like a cape versus whatever. I don't think the person wearing a knit sweater is going to win. That's why I give
he's
it to
wearing
Wonder
a Where's Waldo sweater. It's true.
Woman.
He's going to
Where's
get
Waldo
hot.
is white and red. This is kind of like orange and green.
That's
isn't it?
true. It's true. Howie, I stand corrected. I'm glad you came on the show to tell me to get me straight. Now let's see. We've got this last one. This is one of the weirdest matchups of all time. We have the number 10 seed. I'll get to him. The number 2 seed is Yoda. The number 10 seed is Moby Dick. We don't even know how he got in this tournament, and many people have asked, is this on land? Is it in water? This is the Midwest, so it's got to be Lake
the
Erie.
actual whale.
Yeah.
whale.
Oh, yes,
whale.
yes. No, not the
The
book.
recording
Not the
artist
rapper.
penis.
Not the rapper.
I was
Yeah,
thinking of the
not
recording
the
artist penis and Yoda, who would win that.
Yeah, well,
Moby Dick.
that's a whole different thing. I mean, look, when we
Yoda
first
man.
announced this, Ross did call him Moby Big Dick by mistake.
He did.
It just came out. So, and this is the Midwest bracket. So I argue that Moby Dick is in Lake Erie. He gets his home field advantage as much as possible. Yoda is known for lifting big things out of water. That's going to be trouble for him. But I want to hear what you have to say, Howie, because
Okay,
if I
I'm
talk,
giving it to
you will
Yoda, and
correct
I'll tell
me,
you why.
and I'll, yeah.
I'm going to give it to Yoda, and I'll tell you why. Because everything I've ever read about Moby Dick, like what he does, he doesn't really fight you. He doesn't defeat you. He just envelops you. And when he swallows you and you're in there, everybody who seems to get eaten is alive in there. Like he doesn't even.
Methuselah.
What?
Methuselah Methuselah might be in that whale.
Yeah,
You know
but
Methuselah, right?
in all the stories, he spits them out. So Yoda
That's
will
true.
have
That's
the
true.
advantage from the inside out to do whatever it is he needs to do to conquer this giant dick. Moby.
Very strong argument. Kasey, what do you have to say?
I'm in agreement with Howie. I think he'll just lift Moby Dick out of the water and place him on land. And here's this animal that doesn't have arms or legs and can't fight. And Yoda will just either wait him out and let him die naturally, or he'll slice and dice him and it'll be over pretty quick.
No. So I'm going to say something before Ross makes it a moot point because I don't know. Ross, you like to go for the underdog. What do you have to say?
I'm taking the underdog. I'm taking
Yeah, that's what I
Moby
want to hear.
Dick.
Okay.
I feel that he can just swallow this little Yoda guy. I mean, he's like this big, right? I mean, he's smaller than Billy Barty used to be. I mean, he's like a small guy, right? Now he's like this big.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll
He's
swallow
like a
him.
little cracker,
and
a wafer.
and this is a fight. This isn't like just for fun. He'll swallow him and he'll kill him. He'll use his intestines to kill him inside. So that being said, I'm going for the upset. I'm Mr. Upset. I'm Ross the Boss. I'm taking Moby Dick. You heard it from me first. Who do you like?
All right, so I have the chance to throw it to a tiebreaker if I think Moby Dick can beat Yoda, but here's what I think is actually going to happen. So Moby Dick would swallow Yoda, and it's like Howie would say, he's just sitting in there. And Yoda, I think Yoda would actually pretend to die, and he would say, Dick, there is another Moby Dick. And then he would erupt out of him and choke him to death. I mean, no, actually, I don't think Yoda would do that. Darth Vader would. Moby Dick can't do anything but swallow. Oh, that sounded really bad.
Not if this was a date.
Now we're back to
Moby Dick
Epstein
can't
again.
do anything but swallow.
So you're taking
swallow
Yoda
his victim.
too. So I lost.
I'm taking Yoda.
I lost.
So
Okay,
great. No tiebreakers. Yep. I mean, this was a surprising bracket. It just was a landslide throughout. Even Freddy Krueger, who I thought would advance, You convinced me. His sweater is really bad. He's got nothing going for him. And you convinced me with the dream argument.
It was
Howie, this is the first time I've been totally convinced. This first time I was totally convinced by a guest to change my opinion entirely.
That's
you
my
set
gift.
Me straight.
That's my gift.
I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, Howie. We loved having you on.
I love being on. All right. See you later. Stay healthy, stay safe, and wash your hands.
What a great interview today with Matt Prater. He's the all-time kicking record in the NFL with 64 yards. And Howie Mandel on Monster Madness. He was great. They say America has talent, but we all knew who has the real talent here. And that's right. It's Ross the Boss.
Personally, I think Howie Mandel had you beat with his analysis of Freddy Krueger's sweater.
You can't be serious. Okay, fine. Let's just skip to next week.
That was a wise decision, Ross. On the next episode, we have more 1st and 10. All the picks for the upcoming week, and round 2 of Monster Madness continues. And my friend and former co-host, Claudia Jordan, joins us next week, my most attractive co-host of all time. No offense, Ross.
No offense taken. Wow, what a great show. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the bell for notifications. If you don't, the boss will be coming after you. I'm Ross the Boss, and I love talking fantasy sports with you, cowboy. Lying with a blanket over my head. She asked if she could see who was under the blanket with me. I said, you don't want to find